You know, I've joked in the past about this being the seventh take on Batman. Well, if it ain't broke.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Will, and this is going to be my quick review for The Batman. This stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, and Colin Farrell, and is directed by Matt Reeves. In this story of The Batman, this takes place 2 years into Bruce Wayne, played by Robert Pattinson's exploits as the Dark Knight, and he is tasked with trying to help hunt down a dangerous serial killer that is terrorizing Gotham. And we get to see a lot of Batman's rogues gallery and their earliest forms of development in this movie. This is definitely not really what I would classify as a superhero movie. Yes, Batman is the main focus, but this is definitely more so of like a noir crime mystery thriller type movie with Batman in it, which is, for me, a really great change of pace compared to some of the incarnations of the Dark Knight that we have gotten in the last 20 plus years. Before I jump into the review too heavily, I would like to say hi, my name's Will, and if this is your first time checking me out, welcome. I do reviews, reactions, discussions, rankings, gaming, drinking, usually all wrapped around some form of geekiness. So if that happens to be your bag and might be interested to hear it from a geeky bear's perspective, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I post about weekly here on YouTube, and I'm on the road to 500 subscribers. So it would be fantastic if you popped on the train and, you know, said hello sometime. And if you do really like this video, feel free to share it around the internet and give me a thumbs up in the description area below. So, The Batman. This is kind of like a prequel a little bit. This is like the early years of Bruce Wayne's exploits as the Dark Knight. I remember many moons ago, there was talk about doing like a Batman year one, and which would have kind of chronicled his first year as Batman. And there was a comic run of the same title that came out, again, many years ago. This is definitely a much more realistic take on the Dark Knight character, much more than I feel even something like the Christopher Nolan Batman even achieved, where those were much more grounded in reality, very much like this movie is. But this one, for some reason, felt more appropriate than I felt even the Nolan Batman movies were. And the Nolan Batman movies are iconic, and a lot of people, those are considered like the best Batman trilogy out there. I'm personally a Keaton fan myself, and albeit while I did enjoy the Nolan trilogy of Batman movies, there was just something about it that never caught me like I think it caught everybody else. I still think The Dark Knight is great. I haven't seen it in many years, but this movie, The Batman, definitely did something slightly different that really kind of encapsulated me more during the actual movie experience for myself. I will say the 3-hour runtime, it's a pretty long movie, and there are moments when I felt like you could feel the 3 hours, but I think it used the 3 hours effectively throughout the entire run of the movie. I've always wanted a Batman story like this that really focused on him being the world's greatest detective. That has always been one of his monikers in the comics. And most of the movies that we have gotten never really allowed him to be that. And I think that worked for this movie by having the Riddler play the primary antagonist or the main villain of the movie, being that they kind of blended it with a little bit of like a Seven or a Saw sort of feel to the movie, where the Riddler isn't necessarily the top hat twirl caning, you know, master of riddles and stuff, where he's a little bit more. He does utilize the riddles a lot and the puzzles and the strategies, but they are much more sadistic than I think we've gotten in the live action take that we've had before. Granted, the only live action take that we really got in the movies, besides, I forgot his name, I'm sorry. The original Riddler played by this gentleman here, and the Jim Carrey one as well. This one is definitely more of a like a Jigsaw version of Riddler, which is menacing to a degree. Personally, for myself, I've always been a fan of the top hat and the cane and the all green outfit suits version of the Riddler. So that so he didn't necessarily hit me in the right spots, but that's more of a personal thing than anything else. I think him as a villain was effective, and I like how they definitely toyed with the idea, which I don't think a lot of movies have done so far, where Batman is very much responsible for a lot of the villains that he has to face. He is responsible for their overall creation, and the effect of his vigilantism is what drives these villains to come out of the shadows and to really terrorize the people of Gotham. Another real strength of this movie that I really enjoyed was how we explored the personal relationships of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, with the people that are close to him in his world. The relationship between him and Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz, was a great through line for the movie, and it was even made more successful with the fact that Zoe Kravitz kills it as Selena Kyle. She is fantastic in this movie. She has sex appeal and confidence, and she's not just there as an eye candy. She has her own motivations, her own story that runs parallel with Bruce's in the movie. And I think that's great because a lot of times the side characters can feel like they're just there for being their sake. Whereas I feel like Selena has her own arc throughout the entire movie that runs parallel with Bruce's arc throughout the movie as well. And I think that they blended in and out perfectly with each other, and you got to see the beginnings and the buddings of their long history in the comics. Another great exploration was the relationship between Bruce and Alfred in the movie. Alfred was played by Andy Serkis, which I'm sorry I didn't credit Andy Serkis at the beginning, but I felt like their relationship was very much a growing relationship as well, because this has only been 2 years since Bruce began being Batman, and you could see the hesitation on Alfred's side because he was tasked with caring for him while Bruce is just in this reckless abandonment mode as he's still developing himself into the eventual Dark Knight that we've seen in later iterations as well. I talk about the feel of the movie, how this felt a lot different than most other incarnations of Batman that we've gotten at this point, because I also feel like Gotham City plays a major role as a character in this movie as well. Most other iterations we've seen, rather if it's the Schumacher version, where it's more so a vibrant, crazy Art Deco Warhol explosion all over a city, to something like the Nolan version, which is basically just, what was it, Toronto or Chicago basically, where it just had that vibe to it. The city and the elements in the city really helped to amplify the mystique and the overall aura that Batman has with the criminal element in the city. The way that the movie is shot beautifully. I would say this is probably my favorite looking Batman movie of any of the incarnations that we've got. Albeit, again, the Schumacher ones and the original Burton ones have a very gothic style to it. Well, gothic for Burton, and then Schumacher just went Warhol all over the place. Whereas this one, the way that Matt Reeves shoots like the really low lights and the shadows, and how every time Batman appears on screen, he's coming out of some weird dark alley, and you never know which one he's coming out of, which is a great way that they open the movie by explaining his presence and his effect on the criminal element. It's such a great introduction, and I just loved how gorgeous it looks, and the low light and the shadows, and how he just appears. Even Riddler has a few moments like that in the movie as well, which was probably one reason why Riddler didn't really hit me like a Riddler type, because yes, he had the riddles and things like in the movie. He works more like a serial killer in this movie, whereas I'm a sucker for the cane and the top hat and the green suits. What can I say? I like what I like. but the way that the movie is shot is just gorgeous. It's like the best looking Batman movie I think I've seen. Probably most of any of them too. Like from a cinematography standpoint, and even the score and the soundtrack, they're all produced by Michael Giacchino. I think I said your name right, sir. I'm so sorry if I butchered it. But his score in the movie is just it's easily becoming super iconic in my mind as like one of my favorite scores. I just want to listen to the score for a while. But I think the movie overall is a success. The third act kind of it's like most third acts and most big budget movies right now. It's effective, but it's definitely not It's okay. It's an okay third act. But overall, I feel like the movie is just strong throughout. I think the performances and the characters are fantastic. Zoe Kravitz, to me, steals the show. Even Colin Farrell playing the Penguin, I think he has a great arc throughout the movie as well as he rises to power through the criminal underworld. And when I was watching the movie and really seeing how a lot of the emphasis and the development of the villains is throughout the entire movie, it really does harken back to an interview I remember hearing from Matt Reeves, where this is not only kind of an origin story for this version of Batman, but this is also an origin story for his rogues gallery for the villains that we see in the movie. There are a few teases about upcoming villains as well, which I find very interesting, and I like how this version of Batman has developed throughout the movie and strengthened the bonds with the people close to him. Even the relationship between Batman and Detective Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, is a great partnership throughout the entire movie, and it really allows Gordon to become an integral part of the investigation. And that just goes to show you that every character in this movie never felt like it was a waste of a character. It just didn't feel like the character was just there. I think the ways that they connected all the characters together made sense. The mystery was actually engaging, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. Besides the third act kind of feeling like it fell apart a little bit, I feel like the Batman is probably one of the strongest entries into the Batman mythos I've seen in a very long time. Robert Pattinson makes a really great Batman, and although the movie doesn't necessarily focus as much on the Bruce Wayne aspect of his character, for me that wasn't really a detractor from my enjoyment of the movie or from my overall feelings of success with the movie, because while most other movies have taken the time to play with the duality between Bruce Wayne and Batman, this Batman, being that he is still fresh, he's still learning, he's still engrossed in the vigilante side of things, it makes sense that he doesn't care about being Bruce Wayne. And I feel like if we get a full trilogy of this, we will find that balance, that duality coming in towards the end of the trilogy, as he learns to balance both being a crime-fighting vigilante as well as being a front or a philanthropist to try to help his city in different ways. And so I feel like if the movie gets sequels, which, come on, let's be real, it's getting sequels. I feel like we're going to get a really strong trilogy out of this, where we'll get, at the end of it, a more complete and more adult version of Batman. Keep in mind, he's still probably in his mid-20s in this movie, mid to late 20s. I'm very happy with the movie. I was very surprised, not really surprised, but considering Batman as a character has been overdone a lot. I don't want to say overdone. Since Batman as a character has been tapped a lot. That even sounds dirty. Since Batman as a character has been explored a lot in the movies over the course of the last 20, 30 years, it's surprising that we can get such an interesting and refreshing take on the character while serving the supporting characters and the villains in a very effective and entertaining way, and with some great action set pieces, really great character interaction between the characters, great detective work, great mystery involved in this movie. I think it's a win. So there you have it. Those are my overall thoughts on the Batman. Hopefully you've had a chance to check it out. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Try to keep it spoiler free, because I would like people to go check this out in theaters if at all possible, or if depending on if you feel comfortable going back to the movie theaters. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you did enjoy this video and you kind of like this sort of geeky stuff that I do, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. The road to 500 is going strong, and hopefully we'll get there sometime this year, maybe even sooner. Who knows? But if you do enjoy this, feel free to share this around the internet as well. I've got a ton of videos on this channel that you guys are more than welcome to check out. Like I said, I post weekly. I also stream on Twitch every week, give or take. So feel free to check me out there. A lot of links to different socials are at the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as always, until next time, I will catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did like this video, why not give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends? You can subscribe to the channel by clicking on my gorgeous little face right over there. You can follow me on all the various social media platforms right below. And last but certainly not least, if you've got a few extra minutes, why not check out one of the lovely videos floating right over here. Later.